Hello everyone, welcome to my September wrap up. I ended up reading 13 books in September, which I was not expecting because mostly all the books I read, a lot of the books were fantasy or books that are like long and take more time to read, I guess. So I didn't think I would end up reading so many, but yeah, most of the books overall were great. I think a lot of them were like 4 or 5 stars, which is nice. So yeah, anyways, let's get started. First book I ended up reading was Revved by Samantha Toll. This was a Kindle Unlimited read that I think I saw a reel that was made by the author and I was really intrigued, so I ended up just getting it on my Kindle and reading it straight away. And yeah, this was back when I was still in Dubai, so ended up reading it a lot, like right before sleep. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I think overall it was like about an F1 racer and an F1 mechanic, and yeah, it was pretty fun. That was my first book that was about F1 racing. I haven't read any other books about that, so it was interesting. I am also not someone who's interested or knows much about F1, so that was interesting because it did make me more excited about it and like gave me a lot of knowledge that I didn't have before. So yeah, I'm excited to read more because I do have like the entire Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher, so I'm excited to read that and see how it compares to each other, but also learn more about F1 and like maybe even get interested in actually watching the races and like stuff like that. So yeah, fun read. I honestly don't remember a whole lot about it. It was like a quick read. Like I would read like, I don't know, a couple chapters every night before sleeping, and yeah, it was good overall. So the second book that I read was not good. It was The Long Game by Elena Armas. This is the third book of hers that I've read. I read The Spanish Love Deception when like it was very hyped up by Bookstagram, which it was fine for me. Like I didn't think it was that worthy of the hype, I guess, but it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was whatever. The second book I also did not enjoy much. Like I don't know, like it just like there was this one scene. I don't remember specifics of the scene. I just remember getting the ick from the male main character, and literally would the rest of the book I just like skimmed through it because I'd already bought it, and I just was not enjoying it. But yeah, this one the only good thing about it is like it's really fast to read, but also it's like, honestly, I feel like it was very unnecessary for it to be like almost 400 pages, because this could have been like 200 pages max. Like a lot of it didn't make sense. A lot of it was repetitions, recycling of like other books and like other things that have happened in books, like key moments, like that remind you of specific books. Like they were all in this. Like that's how it felt. Like I don't know, it just felt very recycled of the same old tropes, same things as like other romance books, but like it also didn't add its own take, or it like just didn't make that trope its own. It just felt like there was like a checklist of these things that the author needs to write into the book, and like she was sticking it, but there was no emotion behind it. Like I felt nothing for the characters. Like it was like she kept saying that the female main character is this way and that way, but like she never showed it. It was just through her words. So yeah, it just, I don't know, and I felt no chemistry between the two. The only good thing about this were the goats and the little girls in the soccer team. That's about it. Yeah, I think I'm not picking up another book by this author after this. After having 2 books that I didn't enjoy. yeah. Anyways, this was the second book of September. So when I finished The Long Game, and it just kind of made me not want to read romance for a while, and like kind of just gave up on romance for a bit. But also because it's September, and like I really just got in the mood for fantasy, and I was like, I just need to start a fantasy. I need to be like, feeling all the angst, the emotions, everything. So I ended up picking up a book I knew that I would love, because I loved the books by the author set in the same world that she'd written before this one. But anyways, so the third book of September was Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. This was brilliant. This, I think, was my favorite book of the month. Yeah, definitely, not even I think, definitely my favorite book of the month. I loved it. I was so invested in the world. Like, it was like a movie was playing in my head. Like, I'm like watching this assassin and the spy interact, and like have to like act as if they're a married couple even though they're not, and like there's secrets that they can't even share with each other even though they're working on the same mission, and like all these things. Like, yeah. Anyways, Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong, so freaking good. If you are looking for a fantasy book, go read this. Go, literally, don't even listen to anything I'm saying. Don't listen, like, don't go look for reviews. Don't, like, just go in blind, like, which is what I did. I mean, kind of, because obviously I knew who Rosalind was because she was in the previous books, but I didn't know what had happened to her in those years between the two books, and all that stuff. So I had no idea about what I was dealing with. But yeah, best way to read this book is to go in blind. So yeah, highly recommend Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. Yeah, anyways, so once I finished this, I was not ready to let go of the world, obviously. So my next book was Last Violent Call by Chloe Gong, which is a novella with 2 short stories that are like set after Foul Lady Fortune, but has also characters from the previous duology, These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. So yeah, we get to see like the old characters and the new characters interact, and like it kind of builds on the story itself, so that like it's kind of important to read this before we read the sequel to Foul Lady Fortune, just so we know what happened and how I feel like you would be missing out on some stuff, some information, if you didn't read this before Foul Heart Huntsman. So yeah, I read it, I loved it. I missed the old characters so much, so it was really nice seeing them in this. And just after all the angst we got in These Violent Delights, Chloe Gong knew we needed some lovely moments, some wholesome domestic scenes between all the characters. So yeah, another great read. I had a lot of fun reading both the short stories in this. Anyways, so this was 4th book of September. Yeah, so after this, obviously once I finished this, Foul Heart Huntsman hadn't released, so I was looking for something that would be like a light, fast-paced read. And one of the things that I've been wanting to do, so last year my goal was to read one entire manga series, and so I read the entire series called The Promised Neverland, which fantastic, highly recommend. But anyways, so I had the first 3 books of Assassination Classroom, so I thought this year I would read this entire series. So the next 3 books, 5, 6, 7, were the first 3 books in the Assassination Classroom series. But then they were really good, like really good in terms of the storyline, and like really unique, and like I don't know, like there's this certain kind of like imagination that I've seen in Japanese manga, that obviously like Promised Neverland and like Assassination Classroom and like so many others that I've read have all had like this unique imagination that I'm like, how did they come up with this stuff? Like literally it's insane. But anyways, so the storyline is really good and everything, but like once we got to the second book, it like had some moments, some scenes that were like not great. Like these books did come out in 2012, so like it has been over 10 years since they've been out. So I kind of want to give it the benefit of the doubt, but also like, yeah, it's just the way the female characters are, you know, shown in it, and like, yeah, just some stuff that I was like not okay with. That's why I stopped reading. Like, I don't have the fourth and the rest of the series, obviously. So I decided I won't buy it for now and like see how I feel about it later. And if I'm interested in continuing, then I can like borrow it from Libby or something, or like, yeah, let's see. Because after reading the second one, I kind of wasn't in the mood to continue reading it, but I already had the third one, so I was like, let's give it a try and see, you know, maybe it won't be, you know, as problematic as the second book, but they still had some of the same issues in this. So yeah, anyways, I loved the storyline though. So yeah, I read these 3, 5, 6, 7 of September, and then finally, so as everyone knows probably, Percy Jackson series, the show on Disney, is coming out in December, and I've been wanting to read it because I've never read it for the longest time. And so my 8th book of September was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I did record myself reading it and posted a reading vlog, so check that out if you haven't. But yeah, absolutely loved it. Like, so the thing is, I'd watched the movies when they'd come out 13-14 years ago or whatever, so I did remember some parts of it, so it was more recap for me, but still I loved it. I loved seeing all the, you know, I loved seeing all the differences between the movie and the show, movie and the book, as well as like getting more insight into the Greek world and like the world building of it all. And yeah, I think also because when I'd watched Percy, the movie, like it was, I didn't know any of the Greek information while watching it, so like those things didn't stick with me. But like now that I've read other Greek mythology books and stuff, seeing those moments again in this was like really nice. So this was book 8 of September, and then of course book 9 of September was the sequel, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. I also released a reading vlog for this one, so check it out if you haven't. Yeah, before reading this, I thought I hadn't watched the second movie when it came out, but turns out I did, because I started recalling scenes from it once I started reading this. So this was also kind of recap, but I remembered much less about this book than the other one, so it was still really nice and a lot of fun reading it. But yeah, so I've taken a break from reading this series for now because I don't have the third book with me, but I'm planning on reading it hopefully soon, and I'm excited to read it also because since there's no movie been out for the third book, I have no information on it, so I think it'll be harder to guess what is gonna happen, obviously, and so more exciting when I get to that point and start reading the book. So after Percy Jackson finished, I ended up wanting to pick up a book that is more like fall vibes and stuff, and one of the authors that I think gives off fall vibes in like almost all her books is Olivia Blake. So I ended up reading Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. This book was very interesting, like in the sense that like the first half of the book I was confused the entire time. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea like what the plot of the book was. It's very character based, and I'm more of a plot person. So yeah, I was confused in the first half, but then when we got to the actual like plot point and like everything else started falling into place and stuff, then it was like an aha moment for me, and like I finally like started loving it and enjoying it a lot. And I think definitely a very unique narrative style that is like kind of like either you love it or you hate it. I'm glad though I stuck with it and I ended up finishing it, because I think the confusion and all was worth it to see like how it all fell into place. So yeah, now that I have had some time to think about it, I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it for people who have the patience to wait for things to start making sense, I guess. So yeah, Masters of Death by Olivia Blake was my 10th book, I think. Yeah. So the week I was reading Masters of Death was the week where Foul Heart Huntsman was supposed to release, which it did, but not in India. So I didn't get the book. So I wasn't able to start it after Masters of Death. So I was like, okay, let's read something that I can, finish quickly, and also something, maybe one of the books that I've already started but never ended up finishing. So I ended up reading Before Your Memory Fades by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This book I'd started in Dubai, and then I got back and I was in the mood for fantasy, and so had to stop reading this. But this book was so good, so good. If you know the story about Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, then you know that there's a fantasy aspect. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I found it just as heartwarming and gives the same emotions kind of as the first two books. So that was really nice. I am just I need this last book, because the ending of this was really like it hurt. Yeah. And I was shocked and I almost cried. So, and I was not expecting that, because I don't think any of the other books made me feel that way. Like they were all heartwarming and like warm and fuzzy and like comforting. It gave me those vibes. But this, the ending, yeah, I need the last book. I need to know if it has more details about what happened, because that was just so unfair. Like, yeah. Anyways, this was book 11 of September. Book 11 of September. So yeah, after this, I still hadn't gotten Foul Heart Huntsman. So I ended up picking another book that I knew would be a fast read, that I knew I would need to finish, quickly, because otherwise I will be scared and I won't be able to sleep. And so I picked up a mystery thriller kind of book, which was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I read Daisy Darker by the author last year, and I loved it so much, and I could not guess the plot twist at all. So when I posted it on Bookstagram, like everyone was saying, that I really need to read this as well, because it's like something you can never guess, and like it'll be like crazy and like mind-blowing and stuff. And it was like, if you saw on my Bookstagram like the reactions I was making while reading this, yeah, I was not expecting any of the plot twists. Like some of them, like I think I got some of them right, but like those were like literally the bare minimum of it. Like the least important details I got right in the plot twist were like literally the end, the last like 20-30 pages. I was just like, what is going on? What the fuck am I reading? Who are these people? Are these the same people? that I've been reading about this entire time, and like, yeah, it's whack. Crazy book. Yeah, literally could not guess. I'm like so excited to read all her other books, because I need to now, because there have been very few books that I've not been able to guess the ending or like the plot twists and stuff, and this is one of them now. So yeah, 100% recommend if you're looking for a book to like shock you, I guess. Yeah, I loved it. Any book that shocks me and like I'm not able to guess, immediate 5 stars. So yeah, anyways, this was the last book that I read in September. So book 13. Yeah, so I just counted all my books again, and I only showed you guys 12 books that I've read, even though I said I've read 13. So the short story is called The Priest and the Shepherd. So that story I read after reading Last Violent Call, because obviously I was still not done with the word, and I'm still not done with it because I need to read Foul Heart Huntsman ASAP. But yeah, that will be definitely one of the books I read in October. So I'm excited for that. And yeah, so the 5th book that I read in September was The Priest and the Shepherd, which is a short story by Chloe Gong. Yeah, and it's like a prequel story about 2 of the characters from Foul Lady Fortune. Yeah, so there it is, the 13 books that I read in September. So I love seeing like book stats at the end of every month, so I thought I would also share with you guys some of the book stats from Storygraph that I got for this month. So basically, in total I read 13 books in September, and I read 3,932 pages, which is quite a lot. But also obviously I read a lot of fantasy, so like thick books. I think Foul Lady Fortune was like 500 something pages. Yeah, so in terms of moods, the most I read were lighthearted, funny and adventurous books. I think this is more about like Masters of Death and like Percy and like Assassination Classroom, because those were the vibes. Because definitely not lighthearted and funny like Foul Lady Fortune or like Rock Paper Scissors and stuff. So yeah, mostly I read fast books and medium books, no slow paced books. Yeah, so I read 5 fantasy genre books. I read 3 young adult science fiction, manga, historical books. Like those are the categories they all filled in. In terms of format, most of the books, as you can see, are physical books, which is great because I literally counted the other day and I have over 100 books in my physical TBR, which is so not okay. Like, I don't know how I let myself go this year, but yeah, I have over 100 books on my physical TBR. But I did end up reading 11. I read out of the 13 books, 11 of them were from my physical TBR. So, and that is something probably I've never done before. Anyways, maybe October can be a month where I only read my physical TBR. That's a lot, but I have hopes. I'm hopeful that I can do that. Let's see. But anyways, 11 out of 13 for physical TBRs is fantastic in my opinion. So in terms of star ratings, my average rating was 3.71, which is lower than usual. My usual is somewhere in the 4s because I'm quite generous with my star ratings. Yeah, this is what my pages in September looked like. A lot of ups and downs, and yeah, some days where I could not read. The last like 4 days where you see no books have been read is when I was deciding if I should like DNF Masters of Death or like keep going with it, which I'm glad I did. But yeah, that's where I was like, this book is so confusing, like what am I doing? Should I still keep reading it or not? But yeah, yep. so that is all. I ended up reading 13 books in September, and 11 were physical TBRs, 2 were ebooks. Yeah, and as I said, my favorite book of the month was A Foul Lady Fortune. Of course. Like, look at her, look at her, look at her. Anyways, yeah. My hopes for October is to read more of my physical TBR. I'm still very much in the fantasy mood and have started. My first book of October is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. So I'm already like 60 pages in, loving it. So I'm really excited, and hopefully I can keep the fantasy thing going. And obviously I'll read Foul Heart Huntsman as well, and hopefully more fantasy, maybe some other thrillers and stuff. Let's see. So yeah, the goal is to read only physical TBRs this month. Let's see if I can keep up with that. If not, whatever, but that's the goal. And also to reduce my physical TBR, because 100 plus books is insane, and I really need to do something about that. But yeah, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.